And I can feel it, you. You know, it's different when somebody interviews you that didn't go through it, because I went through it.
Okay, Masha.
Go ahead. And
well, anyway, I got myself by some mistake or whatever of the authorities, bureaucracy or whatever. My name went on the list of people that died in Bergen-Belsen of typhus. So of course my name was sent all over that I'm dead. So when my sister, who I understood later, she went back to Krakow, because the original idea that was when my parents were still alive and when we thought that the war will be over in a very short time. So it was a general agreement that if we are separated, everybody will meet back in Krakow, right? Well, who knew that what happened, and of course I couldn't travel, was out of question. And Gina thought that I'm dead because I was on the list of the dead people. So she didn't look for me, and I didn't hear from any of my family. I was too sick to travel, so I thought that that everybody's dead too. I kind of hoped that maybe my father survived and maybe my mother. I didn't want to believe she went to death, but she did. I spent a year in hospital in Bergen-Belsen. I think I spent about 7 months first, then I was released for about a month, and then I went back because I had kidney stones and everything possible. And then I met my husband in Bergen-Belsen. He was from a different town.
Was that already what? Was
1945.
That a displaced camp? Or
yeah, well, still in Bergen-Belsen, we were taken from the camp
into the city.
And went not to the city, another part of Bergen-Belsen where they used to have barracks for the soldiers.
Yes.
And this is where they transformed this into a DP camp. And we had Mr. Rosenzweig became our president of the camp. And a lot of people, my husband came to Rosensaft, not Rosenzweig, I'm sorry.
She remembers the name.
My husband is originally from Będzin, Poland, and he was they sent him to Auschwitz much before everybody else. He was in Auschwitz for almost 2 years. And anyway, he survived the war also. He came to Bergen-Belsen to search for. He already was married. He had a wife and 2 children that also perished in Auschwitz. But he came to look for the rest of his family, nephews, nieces, anyone. And it just so happened that I was in hospital together with one of his nieces. So Henry my husband's name was Henry. He was much older. He was 26 years, almost 27 years older than I was. And but my God, I needed a father and a friend, and you know, I had a mentality of a 12-year-old. What did I know about life or anything else? And sick as I was.
Marriage, didn't
oh
you?
yeah, I was married for 35 years until Henry passed away 14 years ago.
And when did you leave Bergen-Belsen?
And we were married in December of 1946 and in Bergen-Belsen. And then we found out about, somehow or other, I found out that Gina and Paul were married, and we got together, and they came to, first Paul came to, Gina's husband came to Bergen-Belsen to look for me, and then we somehow or other, before they emigrated to United States, they had a chance to come to us, and we had a chance to go to them. They were in Offenbach at that time or whatever, and they emigrated to United States before us. We were still waiting. Well, I got pregnant And when Gina, just before Gina and Paul emigrated to United States, I was in my 3rd or 4th month of pregnancy at that time. And my daughter was married in 1948. We were married in 46. Rennie was born in 1948. And we came to United States in 1949. She was 11 months old when we came here.
And when did you go direct to New Jersey?
No, we went to New York. My husband had an older sister that came here after the First World War. And somehow or other, through a English rabbi in England, in London, they found out about each other, and so she sent papers for us. And we came to her. We did not come through Hayas or Joint, we came through her. And we moved in with her in Bronx, in New York. But of course my sister and her husband were in Minneapolis at that time, and my only dream in my life was to be reunited with my sister. And so after being for 2 or 3 weeks in New York, you see, when you are young and you want something so badly, we did not have the money to go by plane. We did not have enough money for the whole family to go, so we bought a ticket for me and my 1-year-old baby, and I went with a train all the way through. I had to change trains in Chicago and go to Minneapolis to see my sister, not knowing the language, having a baby in my arms. But when you are young and you want to...
But you went through, baby.
So I did, finally, I was together with my sister and her husband, and at that time she already had Tammy, her daughter, Rennie was about 14 months old and Tammy was 10 months old. And so we spent 2 weeks together, and then I went with the train back to New York. And my husband could not adjust. He really could not. First of all, we were only 3 weeks in New York when he was hospitalized already, because he went through an awful lot in camp. They beat him up so much. He was just terrible. But anyway, we came to, and he was already older, you know. He was not in prime of his life anymore, and not knowing the language or anything. He could not find any job that he could get there, and so we decided we are going to Minneapolis, where my sister was with my brother-in-law and their child. I desperately wanted to be together with them, and they wanted to be with me. And then just so happened that when we came to Minneapolis, we were there for a very short time, and Gina and Paul moved to Chicago.
She moved around, didn't she?
And then we couldn't stay. We were in Minneapolis for about a year, and my husband finally found a work, cleaning some metals or whatever, and I was home with the baby, and that didn't work out. I didn't even have time to look for a job for myself or anything. We went back to New York, and we stopped in Chicago to see them again. Thought that maybe Henry will find something there so that I could be with my sister, but it didn't work out. So we went back to New York, and I hated New York with a passion. I just could not stand the big city and with my nerves and everything. And so my husband found out that there were other people from his hometown, from Będzin and Sosnowiec and all these little towns around Katowice in Poland, that moved out to South Jersey, and that they opened poultry. They bought little poultry farms around. And the whole idea was my sister-in-law lent us some money to put a down payment, and we bought a small poultry farm. It was the idea that we'll be there for 5 years to outgreen ourselves, get a hold of the language or whatever, and I'm still there. in the town. We don't farm anymore, but
how was it prosperous?
Well, no, the first year was a great struggle, and Henry was very, very sick. He was in and out of hospitals constantly. So really, to support our family, it was up to me. And the farm, farm started to go downhill. It was just impossible to make a living on it. So I decided to go back to school, and of course I had to go through the whole Megillah because I had to do the high school. You know, I only started 5th grade, so I had to get the high school diploma first, and then I needed a job that would support my family. And since I had a little bit of an inkling about electronics, electromechanical work out of the Kabel factory, and there were all kind of electronic companies open. That was the time in the 60s, you know, when the electronics and started to, you know, all these invention and everything. So I went to Rutgers after high school and took electronic courses and got my associate, you know, and got a job in engineering. And worked for 20 years there.
In the same place?
In the same place.
And what was the name of the place?
Shavitz Engineering.
And that's in New Jersey?
That's in New Jersey. Of course, they have been... And my daughter went to school, of course, and to college, and was an exchange student. She was for a year, and she went to Antioch College, and then she was sent to Oxford for a year. And she spent 3 months at Sorbonne University, and we had great big plans that she will really do something. And then, since she was the only child, she decided that she is going to have a great big family, that she wants to get married and have a lot of kids. So she opted for marriage right after college, and has 4 children. And now that she is 46 and her oldest is 18 and her youngest is 9, she decided to go back to school. So now she had to move to Iowa with her whole family, and she attends a university there. And we'll see what happens. In the meantime, in spite of everything what we went through, I think
when did your husband die?
My husband died in 1981.
1981.
Yeah, he died, and I think that in spite of everything, we have defeated Hitler. We are here, and that's it.
And our children.
And we still have somehow or other, we are trying to contribute to society and lead a normal life, and I think it's...
Thank you, Judith, for living your legacy. This is like a legacy living for your children and people to remember that you suffered. We appreciate it. Now we are going to see some pictures that you have.
Yeah,
wait till Michael comes.
This is my mother, Regina Steiner. This is my sister, Gina Steiner, and that's me. That's I, Judith Steiner.
What year do you think the photograph is?
The photograph was taken in 1931, which I was 4 years old at that time.
Can you tell me about this photograph?
Okay, this photograph was taken in Krakow also in 1934, I think. That's my grandfather, Jacob Gutman. Joel Bechstein. Joel Bechstein. I said. This is my mother's sister, my Aunt Helen Waldman. This is my mother, Regina Steiner. That's me, Judith Swimmer. And this is my cousin, Irka Waldman.
Second, you're Your grandfather, go ahead.
My grandfather died before the war, but my Aunt Helen survived, and she was the only one from that generation that survived but died in Israel in 1984. And my mother, of course, died in 1942. We don't know exactly the date because she was the one that was taken to, that was destroyed in Belzec, in one of the concentration camps that was taken from Krakow. And that's my cousin Irka that did survive and lives still in Israel, in Haifa. And that's I.
Can you tell me about this photograph?
Now, on this photograph is practically all my mother's sisters and brothers. It was taken at one of my oldest cousin's wedding, and this is my father, and
maybe 5 people survive.
I'm trying to find my mother here.
Next to that.
And my mother right here, and my sister Gina, and I, and my Aunt Helen, the one that I said that survived and died in Israel, and my cousin Dolek that survived also, and Irka, that his sister, and that's the rest. This is Irka. The rest of them all died, all were destroyed in concentration camp.
And can you tell me about this photograph?
Well, this is my husband Henry Swimmer, and I.
Where was the photograph?
And that's in Bergen-Belsen.
And this
After the liberation, about a year after the liberation.
You were just out of hospital?
I was out of the hospital, between my hospital bouts.
Can you tell me about this photograph?
Yeah, was also taken in Bergen-Belsen, and that's just before I got, no, this is just, that's a year after I got married.
What year?
1947.
Skips.
And this photo?
And this photo is my sister Gina, my brother-in-law Paul Parker, my husband Henry Swimmer, and I, Judith Swimmer. And this was taken in Bergen-Belsen before my sister and my brother-in-law emigrated to United States.
And who is this?
And this is my husband Henry Swimmer and I, and that was taken in 1948 in Bergen-Belsen when I was approximately 5 months pregnant. Still waiting for immigration. Both of them here.
I'll get one at a time. And who's this?
And this is my daughter, Regina, we call her Reni, and I, and that was in 1948, taken in Bergen-Belsen when she was a month old.
And what's this?
And this picture was taken in United States on the farm where we lived, where I still live, and this is it was taken in 1952, and this is my daughter, Regina, Reni, and these are these are my cousin's 2 children, both of them survivors. My cousins were the survivors, and these are their children. And that's Ida and Irene.
And who's, one
And
second.
this is my daughter, Regina Swimmer Brown. And that was taken in Tucson, Arizona in 1994.
Okay.
Okay. And this is my daughter and I, and that was taken in 1994 visiting my daughter in Iowa.